And we're at 1 Kings chapter 12, getting ready to read right on. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel were come to Shechem to make him king. Notes. Now the first step taken by Rehoboam was a judicious one. He no doubt sought to cement the dissatisfied Ephraimites to himself by being crowned in their chief city. This should have caused them to submit to the tribe of Judah, as this was a great honor given them. Shechem lay on the flank of Mount Gerizim, directly opposite of Mount Ebal. These are the mounts of curses and blessings recorded in Deuteronomy 11:29 and 27 verses 1 through 8. It was a national sanctuary of sorts, according to Joshua 24, and it was the site of Abraham's first altar, recorded in Genesis chapter 12, verse 6. Isaac and Jacob had both lived here, and Joseph was buried here. Jacob's well was also located within this area, according to John chapter 4, verse 5. A lot of history in that one little tiny area, but anyways, because of the unrest, Rehoboam's motives no doubt were very political. Sadly, the majority of the motives of the modern church are too often political. Jerusalem was the city where God had chosen to place His name. It was where the temple was constructed, and that by the command of the Lord. Jerusalem was the spiritual center of Israel. As a matter of fact, it was the spiritual center of the entire world at that time. This should have been the place to crown Rehoboam as king. However, Rehoboam, as many, and if not most, chose the political way instead of the spiritual way. And the results are obvious. Verse 2. And it came to pass, when Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he was fled from the presence of the king Solomon, and Jeroboam dwelt in Egypt, that they sent and called him. And Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spoke unto Rehoboam, saying, Your father made our yoke grievous. Notes. Now, while Rehoboam was trying to appease the northern kingdom of Israel, they were sending to Egypt to bring in Jeroboam. Continuing in verse 4, Now therefore you make the grievous service of your father and his heavy yoke which he put upon us lighter, and we will serve you. And he said unto them, Depart yet for 3 days, and then come again to me. And the people departed. And King Rehoboam consulted with the old men who stood before Solomon his father, yet while he lived, and said, How do you advise that I may answer this people? And they spoke unto him, saying, If you will be a servant unto this people this day, and will serve them, and answer them, and speak good words to them, then they will be your servants forever. Notes. Their words were very, very intelligent, and consequently they were right. Verse 8, But he forsook the counsel of the old men which they had given him, and consulted with the young men who were grown up with him, and which stood before him. And he said unto them, What counsel give you, that we may answer this people, who have spoken to me, saying, Make the yoke which your father did put upon us lighter? Verse 10, And the young men who were grown up with him spoke unto him, saying, Thus shall you speak unto this people who spoke unto you, saying, Your father made our yoke heavy, but you make it lighter for us. Thus shall you say unto them, My little finger shall be thicker than my father's loins. And now whereas my father did lade you with a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father has chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. Notes. Just reading that kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth. This was a scourge, is what they're talking about, and more painful than a whip. Now, in the action of Rehoboam and of the people in let me read this again. My throat's dry. We're talking about a scourge, which was basically a long whip with a bunch of tails on the end of it. And it would oftentimes have pieces of broken pottery, razor blades, dirt, and all kinds of nasty stuff. But anyways, in the action of Rehoboam and of the people is exhibited the folly of the natural heart and its incurable hostility to God. In the difficulty in which they find themselves, the king consults man instead of God. And the people trust themselves into the cruel hands of Jeroboam instead of the gracious and loving hands of God himself. It will prove to be a very stupid choice. Continuing. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the third day, as the king had appointed, saying, Come to me again the third day. And the king answered the people roughly, and forsook the old men's counsel that they gave him, and spoke to them after the counsel of the young men, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, and I will add to your yoke. My father also chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. Wherefore the king hearkened not unto the people, for the cause was from the Lord, that he might perform his saying, which the Lord spoke by Ahijah the Shilonite unto Jeroboam the son of Nebat. Notes. Through foreknowledge, the Lord knew that Rehoboam would ultimately do these things, and thereby pressured him to listen to the wrong advice, which his heart was prone to do at any rate. The Lord didn't force his will, and neither did he interfere to stop the wrong decisions. However, God allows permissive will. That's something that most of you have never heard, is that God actually has two wills for your life. There's God's perfect will, which is for you to serve him all the days of your life and all the bells and whistles. And then there is God's permissive will. This might shake you up a little bit, but I mean, obviously I love God and I like to teach his word, but if I wanted to go get a gun and go out and just start shooting people, God's going to allow things like that to happen because it's my choice to do so. It's called a permissive will, and therefore God has two wills for a person's life. And sadly, Rehoboam and Jeroboam and all these others are going to choose their own will, and the results will be painful. Verse 16. So when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, What portion have we in David? Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. Now see to your own house, David. So Israel departed unto their tents. Notes. Right here, we have the beginning of over 250 years of nothing but trouble between the two nations of Judah and Israel. While Rehoboam was foolish, the northern kingdom of Israel, sometimes referred to as Ephraim or Samaria, didn't really better themselves by the way that they are doing things right here. Verse 17. But as for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. Then King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was over the tribute, and all Israel stoned him with stones that he died. Therefore King Rehoboam made speed to get him up to his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. Notes. Such a man as Adoram, guided by such counselors and inflated by the sense of his own personal power and importance, well, he would naturally think of force rather than of talking it over. Well, the situation turned out rather badly, to say the least. This guy was not your friend. Verse 19. So Israel rebelled against the house of David unto this day. Notes. This right here is exactly what the devil himself wanted. Verse 20. And it came to pass, when all Israel heard that Jeroboam was come again, that they sent and called him unto the congregation, and made him king over all Israel. There was none who followed the house of David, but the tribe of Judah only. Notes. Now, as the following verses will proclaim, the tribe of Benjamin was included with Judah as well. Verse 21. And when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he assembled all the house of Judah with the tribe of Benjamin, 180,000, which would be 180,000, chosen men which were warriors, to fight against the house of Israel, to bring the kingdom again to Rehoboam the son of Solomon. And we must pick up in chapter 12, verse 22 of the book of 1 Kings. Thank you, and God bless.